I try to avoid it as much as possible. And number two is I really don't do this live when I talk about politics or rant about politics. And, well, and the third aspect is I don't usually do this in my car, basically. But I was just watching a video. I forgot something CEO or something like that. Basically, a guy was talking to a professor, and they were talking about um, Donald Trump possibly running for a third term. And Trump is doing everything he can for the midterm elections to dissuade from the Republicans losing, or more so the Democrats getting the number of House seats as well as for the Senate as well too. And quite honestly, he's going to try to do everything he can, basically. And that's why he's trying to discredit the election polls or the election uh, itself, more so to the point like trying to create voter fraud as part of a thing that basically if any Democrat wins in the midterm election, he's going to say like no, they won illegally, etc. Basically, it was like some kind of legal aspect. But reality is we know that's not true. Um, the one thing though I'm going to say is that if the Democrats do gain the House and this presidency or administration basically ruins the country to a point like we go into deeper inflation or more deeper recession or into a depression or whatever it may be, to a point of like the country goes downhill from this perspective, Trump is going to put the blame solely on the Democrats at that point, because it's a win-win situation for him. Either one, if the Democrats win and gain the advantage in the House and in the Senate, he's basically like, well, and then the country goes down the drain. He's just basically going to blame the Democrats. Basically, I mean that's what he did in 2020, basically, or 2018, basically, when the Democrats gained the advantage that time, he was blaming them for pretty much COVID. Let's be honest, he was blaming them for COVID and not like why the economy was tanking, because it was like saying it was the Democrats, not him. He's going to blame them again in this situation. And the thing is, like, if the Republicans still are able to maintain the lead in the House and the Senate, he's basically just going to, I don't know, sort of blame it on the administration, or just basically spin it to the point of like making it look like he was doing really well at that point. But reality is it's a win-win type of thing for him. The only thing I was looking at with this video that I saw is basically for the third term. However, if he does go for a third term because of the war and he uses it to suspend the Constitution, the only way that happens, he's only thinking, the way he thinks about it that way is, I blame Bloomberg, quite honestly, Mayor, Michael Bloomberg, because he's the one that caused. He didn't suspend, but more so he got the council to overwrite the two-term limit at the time, so that he could be a third-term mayor, when in reality it was a two-term, and he overrode it so just to navigate the financial crisis, which is true. But at the same time, no mayor basically has ever done that, and he's done it. He did it. And Trump saying that Bloomberg was able to do that in New York, he was like, hey, I should be able to do this with the U.S. Constitution from that perspective. You could either suspend it or two, maybe ask. I mean, if Congress he has enough in Congress, in the Senate and in the House, he could probably ask him like, hey, like suspend it temporarily, and then when I come back, then when my third term ends, then re-enable it, basically the amendment. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does that, quite honestly. Um, it's one of those things where I'm not a fan of, but this is a case where like I said, I don't really talk politics as much, but this video is basically, and like the way things are going with the war and whatnot, and even though he says it's not a war, it's just a hullabaloo, whatever it is he wants to call it. It's a war straight up, and basically it's to a point where like he's going to use his powers to basically hold the war. Mr. Taco basically is definitely going crazy. Not he's going off the rails, but he's basically using his justification basically for saying that Iran was had a was going nuclear weapons, when in reality it was like it's possible they didn't. Sadly to say, time will tell. We'll have to wait in 2026. I'm sorry, 2028, and see what happens there. But hopefully, we'll see what happens. I'm just kind of curious, when Trump was trying to say like, oh, FIFA should bring the World Cup back to the U.S. That actually will happen well after second term. So like, Is it a possibility that he's thinking possibly that he's going to have a third term? That's what worries me a little bit. That he said like I want to do my lifetime, my presidency, and the only way that happens is he has a third term. So how does he do that? That's why I think this guy is actually thinking about it. Even though he's saying I'm not thinking about third term, he just said it himself for FIFA. The FIFA president basically was like, hey, I want the World Cup back to the U.S. And the only way that happens, it happens every 4 years. So the only way that happens is if he's thinking that he's going to be here running the country again. So it's up to you to figure that part out. But with it, I'll just leave it at that. I mean, it's just me ranting. I apologize. Like I said, I try not to go political, but this is one of those things where it's like I'm just saying too many things. Just like I had to give my 2 cents. I'll leave it at that.